F-16s and 200 Abrams tanks. Why would the U.S. be giving the new Morsi administration our best weapons to fight wars? Well, because this was an old deal signed in 2010 under the Hosni Mubarak regime. But we are fulfilling our deal anyway, even though obviously Morsi's relationship with us is much more dubious.
Well, here is Rudy Giuliani yesterday with Sean Hannity. Watch.
Explain to me where Egypt is threatened. Egypt is not threatened by Saudi Arabia. Egypt is not threatened by Iran. Egypt's not threatened by Russia, China, the United States. What conceivable reason would they have for these jets other than to do something to protect themselves theoretically against Israel or to help Iran in some kind of action against Israel? We're going to give lethal weapons to someone who believes that the people in Israel are descendants of apes and pigs.
By the way, these F-16s aren't the knockoffs we give people, countries like Pakistan. They were evidently the cutting-edge F-16s that our own pilots used, full of everything that we would get here in the U.S.
And that particular jet right there was just taking off from Fort Worth yesterday, bound for Egypt. Keep in mind, of the billions of dollars that we give Egypt in foreign aid each year, we wind up essentially accounting for 80% of their weapons procurement costs. So 80% of the stuff in their arsenal. You're welcome. Thank you, United States.
They are given, they are not sold.
Right.
It's equipped with a internally mounted 20 millimeter Vulcan cannon. This is the size of a 20 millimeter shell, and the Vulcan cannon can fire these shells at the rate of 100 rounds per minute. Now, in addition to being a really effective air-to-air combat airplane, the F-16 can also deliver a pretty good knockout punch to a target on the ground because it can carry a pretty hefty load of ordnance on pylons underneath the wings. You see this pylon on our aircraft here, there's provisions for another pylon on either side of this one, and on these three pylons under each wing, the aircraft can carry an assortment of rockets and bombs or external fuel tanks to extend its range. Rounding out the arsenal on the airplane is on each wingtip an AIM-9 heat-seeking Sidewinder missile, which is used in air-to-air combat, and in conjunction with the other weapons that the aircraft is capable of carrying, in all, that makes the F-16 a pretty fearsome weapon.
Anything that has a Vulcan cannon on it, should we be giving it to the Muslim Brotherhood?
I think the Egyptians would come to us and negotiate with us and say, what kind of behavior would we have to have? And I would say to them, maybe you should protect our embassy. Maybe you shouldn't let hordes of people jump on top of our embassy and burn our flag and chant that to America. Within the last year, Morsi was seen at a prayer meeting with a radical sheikh who was saying death to Israel and death to Israel supporters. Also,
إما الصهاينة وما يريدون وإما الحرب. هذا ما يعرفه هؤلاء المحتلين لأرض فلسطين المعتدين على الفلسطينيين، هؤلاء مصاصي الدماء مشعلي الحروب أحفاد القردة والخنازير.
So within the last year, Egypt arrested 16 Americans, held them in the country, threatened not to let them leave the country, and when I rattled the cages and said, we may talk about ending your aid, and when other senators traveled there with that message, all of a sudden the Americans were released. They need to show they want to be part of the civilized world, and I would make all aid contingent on that.
You know, Americans, the Muslim Brotherhood seemed to come out of nowhere, but it is the main opposition party in Jordan and Tunisia. It will probably take control of Syria after the fall of Bashar al-Assad. It had ties in the past with Hezbollah and Hamas, and now with its leadership of Egypt, it is the second largest recipient of U.S. foreign aid, and it presents the Obama administration with a dilemma.
As Egypt goes, the region will go. It's the most populous country. It's the most historically significant country. The other countries in the region will look to Egypt and see which direction they go. On the other hand, we don't want to be led down the garden path.
America's support of democracy in Egypt means we're now supporting a political group that has promised a referendum on the peace treaty with Israel and a legal system founded on Sharia law.
the way they give it? We're not actually giving it to them technically. We say, here's $2 billion in aid.
On
with
account.
that aid,
On account.
with that aid, I'd like to recommend that you buy F-16s and M1A1 tanks. So
Sure.
technically, Senator McCain was right yesterday. He says they're buying them from us.
Sure.
Yeah, they're buying it from us with our own money that we're giving to them.
Our federal government is giving Lockheed Martin the $1 billion for the airplanes.
Yeah.